I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 5th Sumner City Council meeting, and would ask that you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation from Pastor Pam Osborne. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You be in an attitude of prayer. Gracious God, who we know by many names and in many ways, I give you thanks this evening that we can gather and express the freedoms that we have, especially as we approach Veterans Day for those who have given their lives for our freedoms. But most of all, I pray this evening, gracious God, that as we express our opinions, we honor one another and we listen and we work together for the betterment of our community. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Pastor Pam. Michelle, could you please call the roll?
Potato. Here. Brown. Here. Hayden.
Here.
Hochstetter.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Reed.
Here. All council members are present. You have an agenda before you. What I would like to ask is if I could get a motion to amend the agenda to add labor negotiations in the executive session discussion topics, and also move the item of adjourning into executive session prior to reports by the City Council and City Administrator and Mayor. Councilmember Hochstetter.
Yes, I'd like to add labor negotiations to the executive session we'll have this evening.
Okay. Could I also ask that you move?
And then I move the position of it before reports.
Okay. Thank you. Got to get a second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any comments from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is amended. Easy for me to say. We'll move into presentations. And we have a presentation on the Pierce County Clothing and Textile Advisors. And I worked hard on this to make sure I don't screw it up, but we have Sharon Mazzoni, who is the president of that association, and I asked that, Sharon, if you could come forward to the podium along with Chief. You could come forward, Mark Creeley, Nikki. Is Nikki out there? Yeah. I want you all to come forward because you'll be the recipients of this wonderful gift. With that, Sharon.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Council and Mayor. Like Bill said, I'm Sharon Mazzoni. I'm the current president of the Clothing and Textile Advisors of Pierce County. Just wanted to give you a few bullets on our organization. We're a 501c3 organization, and we've been in service for over 30 years in Pierce County. We have approximately 120 members, including Councilwoman Barb Potato, whose main purpose is to maintain the life skill of sewing in our community. And we do that by volunteering over 7,500 hours a year. We maintain 4 adult sewing schools year-round. We conduct sewing summer camps throughout the county, reaching out to around 150 students during the summertime. I'm personally responsible for the one in Sumner at the Family Resource Center. We also support the Sewing and Stitchery Expo that comes to the Puyallup Fairgrounds end of February, beginning of March, and it brings a lot of money into our community. We support a local 4-H group. We participate in the Pierce County and State Fair, and we support our community charities such as Step by Step by making knitted items, making receiving and quilted blankets. We support Wishing Well, which is a foster children clothing bank. We support Francis House with new clothing. Also breast cancer recovery patients with making chemo hats. And we've added now Metro Animal Services to our list of community organizations by making dog and cat blankets. So today we would like to present to the Metro Animal Services our contribution of over 70 blankets for their use. We've made the blankets for both small and dog large dog crates, and also for the kitten crates. So these are all yours. So the ones for the kittens are 17 by 17, and the ladies have just used their scraps. And we have put batting in between so the kittens will have some warmth. The smaller dog blankets are 12 by 18, and the larger dog blankets are approximately 32 by 42.
Wow.
And so we've tried to pad them too. Hopefully we'll be able to maintain this, and that eventually Metro Animal Services can have a blanket to send home with each animal that's adopted. That's our goal, so we'll see. Keep our
Okay.
fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Chief Mark or Nikki, would you like to make any comments?
I just wanted to say thank you, Sharon, and the many volunteers with the Pierce County Textile Advisors Group. This will go a long way towards having our guests at Metro Animal comfortable and feel like they're in a loving environment until they can find their forever family or their owner. So appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and add to my thanks. I mean, you got, most people up here are pet lovers and pet owners and can certainly understand the value, really, of what you have given to these animals.
Well, we have to figure out what to do with our scraps.
Yeah. Well, it's a great use, and thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it was great. Thank you. That could be. Okay. With that, we can move on to the
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
We can move on to the consent agenda. Michelle, if you could please read the consent agenda.
Item number 1, approval of the regular council meeting minutes of October 15th, 2018, special study session October 15th, special council meeting of October 22nd, 2018, and October 22nd, 2018 study session. Item 2, approval of the 2018 business claims in the amount of $834,462.94, voucher numbers 102054 through 102195. Item 3, purchase of new security keys.
Is there any item on the consent agenda that any member of the council would like to remove? Seeing none, could I get a motion and second to adopt the consent agenda? Councilmember Hochstetter?
I will make the motion, we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
It's seconded by Councilmember Peterson. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The consent agenda is adopted. With that, we'll move on to public hearing, and we have tonight a public hearing on the town center plan. So I will open the public hearing and call upon Senior Planner Eric Mendenhall to give a brief presentation. Mr. Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This evening, we're holding a public hearing for the Town Center Plan. Before we begin, I'd like to provide some history on how we arrived to tonight's meeting. In 2005, the City of Sumner adopted a Town Center Plan. The need for a plan was to encourage economic development that could support city services while providing different types of housing for the community. The council focused on development around the train station area while providing additional residential and commercial options for the downtown. For a variety of reasons, the plan hasn't generated the development that was envisioned by prior councils. So about 2 years ago, council directed staff to begin the process of updating the town center plan. Again, the goal was to support business and residential development, not looking at today, but addressing needs 40 or 50 years into the future. With that in mind, we looked at the existing plan, forecasted growth in Sumner and the region, and realized this update is an opportunity to address Sumner's growth in a smart way. We began the public process over a year ago at an open house where we asked the community members for ideas. Over 200 citizens showed up. We asked questions, provided visual images, and asked for feedback, and had attendees respond with colored drawings for a future town center. All this information was gathered and presented at another open house in February with 2 alternatives. Again, we asked for public input and a preferred choice, which we presented to the council in March of this year. We then began the environmental analysis, fleshing out details and drafting code, following council's direction. We have continued to have open public meetings and open houses and provided notices and opportunities for input. In August and September, we held discussions with council and sought direction regarding height restrictions and parking requirements. From August through October, the Planning Commission held open public meetings and held a public hearing on October 5th. Through much deliberation, they passed a recommendation to the City Council to approve the proposed town center plan ordinances. There are 3 components to the council will consider. First is the town center plan. This document is a supplement to the comprehensive plan. This document provides policies, goals, and guidance that are used to create regulation for development. Second is the town center code. This document creates a new code section that will regulate new development in the town center. The code establishes how the development will look, how the streets will connect to the form of the buildings, and stresses creating a place that people will want to live, walk, eat, stay, and have opportunity. Lastly, the Town Center Planned Action Ordinance is an environmental document that establishes mitigation measures for new development, similar to what was done in the East Sumner Neighborhood Plan. Using a planned action ordinance is a fancy way of saying that the environmental impacts associated with the new development have been identified and mitigation measures put in place to alleviate the impacts new development may create. This method allows the city and developers to better understand upfront the requirements that will be implemented along the way. It is important to remember a number of factors in any plan of this sort. First, this is not a plan that will happen overnight, or even in many of our lifetimes. Council needs to take seriously the needs of the community long-term, not just today, but 40, 50, 60 years into the future. They must address how to support services while not taxing people out of their homes. They need to consider changing demographics and different needs for housing. They need to look into a crystal ball and think about a world that will not rely on cars or today's ways of doing things. Second, a plan needs to build a box large enough to consider possibilities. Some will say they don't want 6-story buildings in Sumner. Kent has never had any restrictions on height. In their downtown, you could build a skyscraper there, but you don't see anything more than 4 to 5 stories. That's because the market won't support that development. The same thing is true here. The market will drive what will develop. This plan sets restrictions, but also lets us look honestly at possibilities long into the future. Third, the plan works to minimize impacts. In many areas, there are no or minimal changes to height. The area across the street is currently zoned for commercial development, and the new plan adopts no changes to existing heights along the town center borders. The same is true along Kincaid and Thompson. The plan protects the historical integrity of our downtown while encouraging growth that will keep it active and vital. It concentrates development near our commuter rail, attracting residents that are less dependent on the automobile. Fourth, it doesn't change what people do today. A plan doesn't force people to sell or change their way of living. In most, if not all cases, potential land values grow, although taxes for current uses remain the same. Builders know they have to think long-term, to purchase and assemble multiple properties, and to pay top dollar for those properties if they have any thought of developing. Realistically, in today's economy, that doesn't pencil or make sense for most areas in the town center. So life will go on as normal. The last plan we adopted was almost 15 years ago, and little has changed. What you may see in the next 15 or 20 years is 2 or 3 larger properties begin to develop as market forces begin to make it work. We have heard questions about traffic. This entire region is challenged with traffic. Currently, we have transportation projects like the Bridge Street Bridge project and additional lanes at the SR 410 and Traffic Avenue interchange, which will alleviate some of the traffic that we currently deal with on a daily basis. The City of Sumner currently reviews traffic at intersections and roadways in Sumner every year in developing a transportation improvement plan. We know that 167 and I-5 are over capacity with more and more people commuting north. We want to provide a better solution. By providing more housing options near the train station, people will be able to have choices on how they get to their destinations. Additionally, developments must pay for improvements and pay impact fees that fund projects and help the entire community. Overall, without considering the larger picture, the history, the market, the costs, the regulations, the long-term time factors, the proposed plan could be scary. However, I would like to reiterate that this plan will take many, many years before significant changes occur and won't happen overnight or even in 20 years. Some sites like the Red Apple that have been considered for development and would currently allow 3.5-story building development have yet to gain significant traction. The proposed town center plan, the town center code, and environmental documentation further the goals and policies of the city's guiding document, the comprehensive plan, and paves a path forward for smart growth in Sumner, and will create additional housing options, create economic opportunities, and create a more vibrant downtown and community. Staff recommends the City Council approve the proposed town center plan, town center code, and town center planned action ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendenhall. We're here tonight to hear from the public regarding this issue. There are a number of you that have signed up to speak. The one thing I've discovered, Michelle, is I think we need a new pen because I'm frankly going to struggle with some of these names because it obviously was difficult for you to use whatever pen was out there to sign up. But we'll work our way through that and get you up there so the council can hear your comments. Second thing is that we typically, have a time limit on comments, and I think we typically would limit it to 5 minutes. That's a long time. I would hope that you could get your points across to the council in less time than that. I don't know if there's anything you had put on there.
Yes,
3 minutes. Okay, good. 3 minutes. So anyway, time your comments with that, and I'll get to that if there's any that comes up. So if I butcher your name, please help me out and come forward and state it clearly along with your address. The first one that signed up is Jacob Loden. Jake.
I did not break the pen, and my last name is pronounced Lodine. My name is Jake Lodine. I'm at 604 Cherry Avenue, just right on the Thompson side of the town center plan, right on the inside of the town center plan. Spent the last year watching the town center plan develop, going to the most recent public hearing, open houses and all of that, and I think you guys have done an excellent job of making sure that everything's going to look like it should in Sumner. I'm a fan of the additional density. I think that might bring some more amenities to my side of town, which I would really enjoy. The one concern that I do have, and I think many of you know that I have this concern, is the restrictions that it places on current homeowners within a town center plan. So those homes that are within the town center plan, if you go to page, 8,000 on that big old packet, which I did stay up very late one night reading that whole packet to find my piece that I was looking for. But it restricts current homeowners to 25% addition to your current square footage. My family, we bought our house 2 years ago in Sumner, and it was on its total last leg. Literally, the foundation was on one post, and it was totally falling apart. We did put every dollar, every thing that we had into this house to make it into something that we could live in, so that we could live in a neighborhood that we wanted to live in, with the plan of later on adding on to our house as our family grows. Most of the houses, well, perhaps not most, but at least my house is very small in the town center plan. It's 120 years old. And when I read about the limitation to keep our property at only 25% more, that kind of blew me away and bummed me out, because I was somebody that I feel like has put in effort and time into beautifying my neighborhood, which is what Sumner is also trying to do with the town center plan. But I feel like the limitation that's being placed upon it not only is going to cap my property value in the future, which I think is the idea, but it's also going to make it more difficult for me to live in that house with my growing family. And so I reached out to the council with this, and I guess I suppose it got passed around. I heard from two different city employees today, and I was really excited to hear from city employees that told me that there is potentially an amendment that will be talked about at the next what do you say? Study session. The next study session. And I don't know all of the details of the amendment, and I'm really thankful that John and Eric tackled that right away when I sent that email out. But what I would ask councils, when you guys talk about that in the study session, that you might consider completely getting rid of the 25%, that you'd keep the code, the building code, at what it is currently for residential lots. You'd keep that for the next 10 years. And then for the following 10 years after that, you would allow 75% increase in square footage of homes. And then at that point, whatever you might see fit. I believe that might be my time. So, beautiful orchestra.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you, council. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, it's Daniel Cor. Thank you very much. The first N did not come through,
There
so.
you go. My name is Daniel Conine. I'm a resident of Sumner. I actually own 2 homes in the city of Sumner. Both homes are within the town center plan, one of them being directly across the street from Jake, and another one just a block away from here. So thoughts I want to share: I would support Jake's proposed amendment. It is a concern where our properties are. The new coding for the town center plan allows us to build 3- and 4-story buildings, but of course then would potentially limit that to a 25% expansion. So there's a little bit of conflict on what we could build new versus potentially add on. Overall, I just wanted to speak in favor of the plan of the town center, or the town center plan. We've been in Sumner for a long time, plan to be here a long period of time. As a resident, I have been concerned about watching businesses come and go. We love the downtown, we love the historic feel of it, but we've seen a lot of antique shops and cool stores come and go. Because of the economy, we've seen a lot of businesses stay vacant, and it is a concern that clearly if we don't infuse new growth into the area, those eventually are going to go away as well. I support the overall view and appearance of the plan. I get there's a little bit of sticker shock when you look at the size of the growth, but I have been to the meetings and talked with Mr. Mendenhall and understand that this is a long-term plan. And as somebody who plans to be in the city for a long period of time, I believe it's an appropriate measure that I think takes us in a positive direction with what we want to see in the city.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next up is Jeremy Hutchins. Nice job with the pen. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought this was a sign-in sheet for just coming to the meeting, so I don't have any questions.
Okay. That's good use of your 3 minutes there. That was. Okay. Next up, Jason Berry.
Thank you very much. I live on 614 Elizabeth Street, right smack dab in the middle of the plan here. And I just wanted to share general concerns about it. I'm actually generally in favor of increased housing density, but when we talk about the kind of historical integrity of the city, I live in a 1905 Craftsman. I live in a predominantly residential neighborhood full of people that have been kind of raising kids there multiple generations. And it seems odd to me that we're trying to restore the historical kind of integrity of the community by putting increased housing density over the top of one of the longest standing neighborhoods in the city. So I guess I just generally, I'm in favor of the direction of the kind of increased density, but I don't understand why we're doing it in the place we're doing it and why we're not seeking to do this in a little bit of a different way, in a way that doesn't displace people. I hear the kind of, we don't want to tax people out of their homes, but we might code them out of their homes, so to speak. And so I also have concerns that there's really nothing when you let market drive development. There's really nothing stopping a single-family home for being next door to a five-story development apartment. And I don't really think that's the goal, but I see that as being something that could definitely happen. And if you look at the downtown Kent, which has been referenced, there's actually quite a bit of spaces where there's residential homes next to businesses, and it's a hodgepodge, and doesn't really represent what I think is the aesthetics that we're going for in our city. So those are my general concerns. I'd also say that when this was originally presented, I think it was presented in a way that didn't really fully give true community feedback. And so to me it was presented in, would you like 3-story buildings or 5-story buildings, not would you like to see increased density in this area. And so to me that doesn't really represent a space where community has true opportunity for feedback. So I think we were given the opportunity to feedback on something that was already down the tracks a little ways. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, is it Ellsworth? Ebsworth. Okay, the B. Got it. Thanks, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl Ebsworth. I'm here on behalf of Apex Engineering. We represent developers, and so one of them is the Corliss family, who is well known here in Sumner, and they reviewed the plan, and in concept they're in favor of it. They like the idea of Sumner staying economically viable into the future, and this is coming from our industry, and we work in lots of different jurisdictions across the state. This town center idea is something that lots of smaller cities are looking at to keep their downtowns sort of viable in the picture of competing small towns, and being a draw and having sort of like a live-work environment and some economic sustainability. And so I think it's a good thing for Sumner to be doing. What is different here is the form-based code is something that is not common in all of these town centers. And so that's something that on the industry side, of course, we're nervous about. This is something that we see as being instead of a land use, it would be a design review. And to date, those design reviews are a lot more arbitrary. And so I see there's lots of details in this code. I haven't been able to go through all of them. But being able to have those flexibilities as you're going through the process, because anytime you develop something, there's surprises, especially when you get into a context of a focal parcel. It's going to be different than when you're looking at the entire town center and 5 neighborhoods. So, but all that comes in how it's getting worked with, and that sounds like that's going to be in the future. But that would be our only, from an industry side, our one caution point is that this is a new way to regulate, and we'd be looking for flexibility.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think it's Michael and Sheila Crawford. Is that correct? No. Nope. No, it was correct, but no, you don't wish to come forward and speak. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Michelle Allen.
Hi, good evening. I'm going to read an email that I submitted as a comment. I didn't get any feedback on it, and frankly, I'm struggling to feel like my voice is being heard. And so, I've attended a lot of the meetings, had one-on-one meetings, and so I just wanted to take this chance to share my concern with you. I'm at 1020 Academy, so if you could see through that wall, you would see my house across from Eli Hill building. All right, I'd like to share my personal feedback on the town center proposal. I have been following the process for the last several years, since becoming a Sumner resident in December 2015. I love my home, which is at the corner of Academy and Alder. I respectfully and passionately expressed my opinion every chance I got. My main issue here is I believe that having a 3-story height allowance on that lot directly across from established residential homes is too high. My proposal is that you allow just 2 stories for any building directly across from a home along Academy and Kincaid, the west and the south sides of the lot. In this email, I included a picture that was taken from my front porch. I said I would like you to imagine this being your view with a 3-story building taking up the entire block across the street. My view of the hill and the evening sunsets out there would be gone. I would hardly be able to see the sky. This porch was my husband's dream and one of the things that drew him to that house. And like you know, in this picture, if you're looking at my porch and there's a building up that high, like the sky would be gone. We knew that there would someday be development across the street, you know, buying across from a vacant lot, but the proposed plan is just too much. The construction impact would be huge. Just when this bank right here was demolished and the parking lot was built, that was disruptive even. My house shook every day starting at 7 a.m. the whole time they were constructing it. Sumner can't take such an influx of residents to this lot either. Please don't ruin this town at the expense of those who currently live here and love the town, for the future is not necessary. So my proposal is that you strongly reconsider the height allowance of the buildings right there. When I brought it up as a concern at the open house recently, saying, you know, I really think 2 stories is much more reasonable than 3, the response I got was, well, currently it's zoned for 4, so 3 would be better than 2. I felt was really dismissive. And like I said at the start, I don't feel like my voice is being heard. But that's my concern and my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Next, we have Andy Elfers.
Hi, Andy Elfers, 1425 Park Street. I just want to make a note that a lot of people spoke here. Not many people spoke at the property tax increase thing. I was the only one. But I want to thank you guys for your work on this. I do think it's a big risk to make these changes. We've spent a lot of years on the council kind of trying to keep things the same, and I think we do need to make some changes. I think it's like I said, it's a big risk. We have a charming community. We want to preserve it. We also have a regional transit station, and we have some government mandates that we have to increase density. So I understand some of the goals of the update is to encourage development, which scares me, honestly, but it's also an opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity if it's well executed. So I just want to talk a little bit about the execution. I know there is an economic development study going on right now, and I generally approve of the plan changes, but I don't feel like I'm hearing a lot of really clear value statements and goals. So I think I see height restrictions in all these codes, which is great, but I do see the design thing it could be arbitrary. I do think if we're going to encourage developers, we have to be flexible. We also need to I hope we can learn from the mistakes. We have some neighboring cities that I think have done some things well, some things I think that have been done poorly, and I don't know if I need to list specifics, but I don't think I will actually. But I want to just encourage you to approach this application of this. I'm assuming it sounds like we've gone through a process that's been pretty lengthy, so I assume that in some form this will go through. But it will have significant impacts on many residents that we've heard tonight, and I'd love to hear some more specific goals about, we're doing a remodel right now. I'm running out of time, but we have a 1938 house. We're doing a remodel, and we struggled for 2 years doing the design process, trying to decide how do you maintain some of the integrity of the house it's been that old, and how do you also take some of the things that are problematic with the plumbing and the electrical, the lack of insulation, and those things take a lot of time. So I would just encourage you guys to be very careful, and I would hope that we would have more public discussion about what things make Sumner charming that we want to retain, and how can the government support and subsidize those if we need to, because I do think there's some meaningful things to retain, and also some need for growth. So I hope that there's some flexibility. Having worked in government, I know that government tends to be inflexible. I hope that there is some flexibility with residents who come and are able to express their concerns. And so, again, thank you very much for your work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy. And final on the list, we have Jolene Peterson-Jones.
Good Good evening, Council. I'm Jolene Peterson-Jones, 805 Wood Avenue. I'm here in strong support of the Town Center Plan. The plan encourages smart growth in our city. We have a transit hub here. The Sounder is such a valuable asset to our community, and increasing density around that makes good sense. It's good growth. It's smart growth. It encourages economic development. It encourages a diverse inventory of housing types. And it also, the code changes will also make some sites that just don't pencil right now developable. And that's really exciting to see more people moving to the city, but doing it in a smart way. And I commend staff, council, planning commission who have reviewed the town center plan, and I've heard some really good discussions about it, and I think that it's being well considered. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jolene. That's all that had signed up on the sign-up sheet, but that doesn't mean that there may be other people out there that either the pen didn't work or you forgot to sign up, and you want to address the council. If you would, please step forward, state your name and address, and
try to write it on the sheet.
Right. Yeah,
I
sorry.
like that. My name is Matt Olfson, and we moved here to Sumner about 3 years ago. Our daughters attended high school and played sports and things here. One of the things that we really liked about Sumner and why we actually moved here is this kind of small town feeling that a lot of people seem to be talking about and, which we totally understand, because that's one of the reasons we came here. We like to be able to walk downtown, go to the drugstore, get something to eat, go to the grocery store, whatever. Another reason that we moved here is because of the transportation options, and some other people have talked about that too. I end up in Seattle 3 or 4 days a week, sometimes 2. Try to avoid it when I can, but I'm able to take the train to go up there, and I just see that as such a huge resource that we have, and allowing for increased density in that area just seems to make sense. It seems that it would bring lots of people. We all love this little downtown, but we do have to have people that go down there, spend their money, shop, and do that kind of stuff. So I'm supportive of doing the town center plan, and I think that's a great idea. There will definitely be some bumps along the road, but at the end of the day, I think having some planned growth, and you guys have obviously put a lot of work into it to try to say how can we do this and try to meet all the needs. Everybody isn't going to be happy with it in the end, but there's also, I think, a lot of good that can come out by moving forward with it. So anyway, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience that would like to address the council on this issue? Anybody else? Hearing none, I will declare this hearing closed. I might add that you didn't hear any response back from the council, because it is really not our role at this point to respond back to your comments, but I can assure you that everybody up here was listening carefully, and we'll take your comments forward for our discussion at a study session. And thank you very much. With that, we will go on to regular business, and under unfinished business, we have Agenda Bill 18-182, which is resolution number 1510, which is the property tax levy. And if I could get a motion and a second from the council to consider this item, I would appreciate it. Councilmember Hochster, thank you.
Yes, I'll make the motion that we accept 18-182 resolution number 1510, the property tax levy.
Okay. I'll second that. Okay. So moved and seconded by Councilmember Stewart to adopt the resolution 1510, setting the 2010, ad valorem property tax levy. With that, I would call on Cassandra to give us a presentation on this.
Cassandra Raymond, Chief Financial Officer. Before I present the resolution, with your permission, I'd like to just run through a little bit of history of our property tax process. So taking a look at our 2019 property tax levy, about 24% of our general fund revenue over the 2019-2020 biennial budget is derived from our property taxes. It is our most stable source of revenue. Our other large sources of revenue are really dependent on the economy, such as sales tax and other utility taxes. But property tax is our most stable source. In 2015, City Council authorized an increase for the general fund building reserves, sidewalks, and to support our streets and arterial streets. In 2017, Council authorized an increase for general fund operations and reserves consistent with the cost of living, and it also established a council reserve fund at that time. Historically, besides those 2 years, which were a little different, we've levied a 1% increase over our prior year's collections. Per RCW, we did hold a public hearing on our 2019 property tax levy on October 15th of 2018. We did have one citizen speak in support of our proposal, and we appreciate that participation. We do have to pass our resolution and certify our property tax levy to Pierce County no later than November 30th of 2018 for 2019 taxes. So taking a look, this is our 2018 property tax distribution, and as you can see, the items that we have listed in red are voter approved. Of our overall property tax, the City of Sumner receives about 9% of the overall assessment. The remainder is split out primarily to the school district, to fire and EMS, to the state, to the county, and then to some other taxing entities. For 2019, what staff has built into the 2019-20 biennial budget is a 1% increase in property tax collections over the 2018 amount, plus the value of new construction and improvements, and then some additional revenue from administrative refunds. What that ends up being is our 2018 levy was $3,693,584,000. Adding a 1% increase over that for an additional $36,000. The additional revenue from our new construction and improvement, and then administrative refunds gives us a total 2019 levy request of $3,780,000. I'm sorry, $3,783,23. There we go. So based on the Pierce County Assessor's preliminary certification for 2019, this would result in a per 1,000 levy rate of about $1.23. Our 2018 levy rate was $1.30. And then taking a look at how that impacts our average single-family residential home in the City of Sumner. In 2018, the levy amount just for the City of Sumner, again, this is the 9% of the overall assessment we receive, was $383.71. For 2019, that amount will increase to $393.21, so about 80 cents a month or $9.50 a year. At our October 15th council meeting, again, we held a public hearing on our property tax. October 15th and October 22nd, we discussed with City Council at the study session how these would fund both the general fund and our internal service and enterprise funds. And then here we are tonight with presenting our resolution for our property tax levy. So before you tonight is a proposed resolution and property tax levy certification for tax year 2019. This is setting the 2019 levy rate of approximately $1.23 per 1,000 of assessed evaluation. For 2019, that total levy would be $3,780,323. Of that amount levied, $330,000 would be reserved for leveraging for street projects. And what that is really is that's providing leveraging for grants. That's providing a funding source to provide the match portion of our street-related grants. Further, $350,000 would be reserved for council appropriation in a future budget action. As I mentioned, as mandated by RCW, a public hearing was held on October 15th, 2018. That hearing process provides Sumner residents with the opportunity to voice their opinions, prior to the adoption of the property tax levy. And again, we had one citizen participate in that public hearing, supporting a levy rate of $1.23 per thousand. We are required to certify our levy request to Pierce County Assessor Treasurer no later than November 30th, 2018. So we're here before you tonight with that resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions, comments, anything? Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Raymond. I have a few comments. I'll try to keep them as tight as possible for considering the time limits. But a couple of comments and clarifying questions. First of all, because we mentioned this is built into the overall budget process.
Yes, sir.
One of my first questions is, in the projected budget, includes for the biennium about a little more than $1 million in surplus non-appropriated funds for the biennium.
So I think what Mr. Reed is referring to is the council reserve fund that was set to begin in 2018.
Yes.
So in 2018, the property tax levy included a council reserve of about $354,000. And then another $350,000 will be set in 2019 under the proposed property tax levy. And then, of course, we're only talking about the 2019 property tax levy this evening.
True.
If City Council includes that council reserve again in next year's discussion for the 2020 property tax levy, yes, at the end of the biennium, there would be $1,054,000 in the council reserve fund, assuming that there was no other appropriating of it.
Correct. Just
Yes.
kind of as it is at the moment.
Correct.
That's how much is in there. And that's in addition to the emergency funds, which are close to $1 million that are set aside for specific emergencies or council-directed.
So we have a separate fund called the General Fund Reserve Fund. It has a balance of about $980,000. That was set several years ago, and that does require a council supermajority to access.
Thank you. And then, so in my comments now, a tax increase represents about $140,000 for the biennium as of where we're at right now. If the tax level remained the same as the 2018 levels, the $140,000 could be covered by those non-appropriated surplus property tax funds that are projected throughout, not only for 19, but for the biennium budget.
That could certainly be a council decision.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, should that have happened, it would leave around $860,000 or so available in the non-appropriated surplus funds that could be used for opportunities, grant matching, things like that.
Yes, with the one caveat that that's dependent on council also in 2019, including that $350,000 council reserve for the tax year 2020.
Correct. So
Yes.
next year's budget budget
Yes.
review.
Yes.
Okay. And then now recognizing that there's it's a small individual impact, but collectively it's about $140,000 that would be coming from the community and the business and residential community for Sumner. So with that, I'd like to, actually I have some specific language here, and I'm sorry I had access difficulties.
Technical difficulties with your laptop.
Yeah,
right?
my
I know.
laptop died right as the session was starting. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we retain the levy at the same dollar amount in 2019 as was levied in 2018, including not increasing the levy amount by NC and I, the new commercial or new construction and improvements.
Okay. Patrick has made a motion. And Michelle, you want to make sure you get that?
Could the council member please repeat slowly
Sure.
the motion?
Sure. I move to levy the same dollar amount in 2019 as was levied in 2018, including not increasing the levy amount by NC and I.
Wait till Michelle catches up. You get it, Michelle?
So, move to retain the same levy amount in 2018 and 2019, not increase NCNI?
Close. Retain the same dollar, levy the same dollar amount in 2019 as was levied in 2018.
Yeah, you just missed that phrase in between the two.
Thank you.
Okay. Is council clear on Patrick's proposed amendment? Just the language I'm asking, because I want to make sure you're clear, because I'm going to ask for a second. Is there a second to Patrick's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been seconded by Councilmember Peterson. You want to speak any further than you already have,
No.
Councilmember Reed?
Essentially, thank you. I actually asked and received answers on the majority of my questions. The big point that I was making is that it's a small individual impact, but collectively it's $140,000 that would come out of the business and residential community for Sumner when we have surplus funds available that are non-appropriated and not currently assigned to any spending source.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from other council members on this proposed amendment? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I can sure appreciate Mr. Reed's efforts in and the mathematics that he went into to create this amendment. I feel to comment that the city is in a very good position now as a result of our fiscally conservative policies since the recession. We have been able to, as we've witnessed from this dais, approve budget amendments for things like spider excavators and all sorts of things. Maybe not that many, but a lot that cost a lot of money. We've had surplus available to cover those without hindering the existing budgets. If we were to, and I love math, but I don't have numbers in front of me. I've just seen a graph that kind of points this out. If we were to, for 2019, go back to the 2018, so we'd in effect be reducing the revenue for property tax for that 1 year, it would take years to catch up. You build upon 1%, upon 1%, upon 1%, and it would take years to cover that. And I think we all understand that the economy of our area, albeit the whole country, is like a roller coaster with ups and downs. And I feel it would be fiscally irresponsible to pass this amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Comments from other council members? Councilmember Hochstetter.
I guess I have to state also that I feel like the compounding effect of going backwards is just too big of a risk when we look forward on the graph and see that when we move into 5 and 10 years from now, the 1% is going to put us in a really tough spot. So I think it's to our credit that we're putting some money in savings and letting it build. We're not, the minute we have a teeny bit of money, we aren't running out and spending it. We're trying to save to be able to build different buckets of money that can help us with roads or other large expenses. And so I'm proud that the council hasn't spent out of our savings, even though it could be at our discretion. So I won't be supporting this tonight, and I appreciate the budget that's been put in front of us. Thank you.
Okay. Any other council comments? Councilmember Botetto.
Yeah, I also agree because, as we've gone through the budget process, we've seen a number of very credible items that aren't going to be funded this next year because, there just isn't the money. And so I think we need to go ahead with the 1% and, keep it going because, I just look at tomorrow as people vote, they're looking at the library needs to, and the fire department, they've had years that they haven't collected, the extra money. And so I think we just need to keep with the 1%. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council members? Okay. Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll on the proposed amendment?
Hochstetter?
No.
Stewart?
No.
Potato?
No.
Peterson?
No.
Brown?
No.
Reed?
Yes.
Hayden?
No.
Okay, the proposed amendment fails, and so any other further comments on the resolution before us? Okay, seeing no other comments. Councilmember Brown, excuse me.
I'm sorry I'm late about that, but the average homeowner, 79 cents a month increase, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Okay, seeing no other comments from the council and noting that no public testimony would be allowed since we had a public hearing on this issue, Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Hayden?
Yes.
Hochstetter?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Potato?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Reed?
No.
Okay, the resolution is adopted, is passed. With that, we will move on to public comment, and we had 2 people sign up under public comment. Hooray. First one is Kelly Den. Did I get that right, Kelly?
That is correct.
Dang, I got one right tonight anyway.
Good
Okay.
evening. I'm Kelly Den. I'm representing the Sumner School
I'm sorry?
District at 1202 Wood Avenue.
Oh, yes. Michelle would like to inform you of the rules of engagement here. In other words, what you're supposed to be doing up there is supposed to not to be doing.
Oh,
The time is
stay
reserved.
okay.
Go ahead, Michelle.
The time is reserved for you to address the mayor and the council on matters of city business that are not on the agenda. It should be remembered that we are engaged in the public's business, and an appropriate level of decorum should be maintained at all times. Only one person may have the floor at a time. This is a time for the mayor and council to hear from citizens and is not the opportunity to engage council members or the mayor in debate. When recognized by the mayor, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer sounds, please conclude your comments and return to your seat. If you would like to ask a question, it's best to submit it in writing in order that the mayor, council, or staff may have adequate time to research and provide a complete answer.
Okay, Kelly, I was so excited to see a couple
I
people
know.
signed up. That, got
Okay, so-
ahead of myself, but please continue
well, I
with
will
your comments. Yeah.
I'll start over again. I'm Kelly Den. I'm representing the Sumner Bonnie Lake School District at 1202 Wood Avenue. And so I'm here just to give you a few quick highlights of what's happening in the district and what that 40% of the tax is going to. So first, I'd just like to let you know Sumner High School has a drama production starting this week, Friday and Saturday. It is called Check Please. It's a series of just one acts about blind dating gone wrong. So if you're available this weekend and would like to see that, you can purchase tickets ahead of time at the high school or at the door at the Performing Arts Center. And I am here tonight to proudly let you know of our FFA. We have national champions at the high school. 2 students, Adeline Rang and Callista Wales, they were named national champions at the FFA Agri-Science Fair in Environmental Science and Natural Resources. I had the privilege of watching these 2 young ladies get prepared for this presentation, and their topic was on the toxicity of tire rubber particles on aquatic microorganisms. So that's a mouthful. So basically when we drive our cars, the tire pieces of the tire come off, go into the waterways, and then it affects, organisms up the food chain. So the students, absolutely fantastic project, something just to be so proud of. And then there were 9 other students who competed as well, and all of the students placed between 5th and 11th place in the country. So amazing, amazing work by the students and their advisors, as well as community members that help support the students. The district appointed a new school board member last month, D. Clark. He will be representing District 4. He's finishing a term that was vacated by Casey Chamberlain. And so Mr. Clark lives here in Sumner with his wife. There's 2 children. 1 student attends Sumner Middle School and 1 at Sumner High School.
And then quick update, Daffodil Valley Elementary. So over here, we have a small classroom now adjacent to the office that we're turning into something we're calling a family opportunity center. And so what this is, it's a place where we can provide students with food, clothing, mental health services. That way we can match students' needs immediately right within the school setting. And then the very last thing I'd like to share with you is last month, Rotary District Governor Craig Gillis visited Eli Hill High School program just across the street here to formally induct a student leadership team into the new Rotary Interact Club. This is a service club for students ages 12 to 18, and this is to develop their leadership skills while also discovering the power of service above self. And so just want to let you know how grateful we are for Rotary members Ron Haynes, who's actually leading the Eli Hill Interact Club, and then also for Kathy Hayden, who leads our Early Act Club at Maple Lawn Elementary. So our school district is just so proud to have so many great partners in the community, and we really couldn't do the work that we do without the support from all of you. So thank you.
Wow. Nicely done. And Kelly, thank you for recognizing both Ron and Kathy. They put in untold hours, in that position as part of Rotary, and Kathy's also involved with the other Interact, clubs. So thank both of you, and thank you for making that report and updating us. Next we have Jordan Moog.
Hi, my name is Jordan Moog. I live at 908 Meade Avenue over by the high school. And I have lived in Sumner for 4 years now. In February, I celebrated kind of like an anniversary because we love this town. But I teach at the high school currently. I'm a social studies and civics teacher there. And I wanted to bring something to you that I'm really passionate about. And I realize that as a civics teacher tomorrow, there are probably a lot more important topics to talk about, but I do find this one to be passionate in my mind, and I wanted to talk to you about possibly putting a dog park in Sumner. I have grown up with animals in my life, and I grew up in Tacoma, a really busy city, and we had a dog park near where I grew up, and it was something that I cherished and something that I felt really allowed me to feel a part of something, as well as build community with people in my town and my community. So for me, I just really thought that would be something that would allow us to kind of serve. I was reading your mission statement today, and I thought that would be something that would fit right into that and continue to serve and build community in Sumner. I think Sumner has kind of the nostalgic feel that you can't even describe. It's special, and it's something that I have fallen in love with here the last 4 years with my husband and 2 dogs. And one of the things that I've just really felt passionate about is possibly putting that into Sumner in some way, shape, or form. We have multiple parks, and I walk my dog very often, but there isn't a place for them to go off the leash. Oftentimes I take them to the softball park across from my street and my home and try to let them off the leash there, but it's just not as I think community building as something as a dog park would be. So I did a little bit of research and just looked up some interviews with towns and people that have been a part of dog parks in their cities, and a lot of them just talked about the community builder is not only for the dogs but for the people as well. It promotes safety, it allows for conversations to be had, it's a safe place for people to go and visit, and with a dog park we have healthier pets as well as healthier people to improve the quality of life. So I would hope that you would consider at some point talking about it at least and possibly putting it in your budget for the city. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Okay, that's all that signed up. Anybody else out there that'd like to address the council on any issue that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on from public comment to new business. And under new business, we have Agenda Bill 18-183, which is ordinance number 2662. Which is the 4-hour truck parking code amendment. And I would call on Community Development Director Ryan Windish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The ordinance before you would adopt a 4-hour truck and trailer and truck-trailer combination parking limit on the north side of 16th Street. The limit already exists on the south side of 16th Street, and it would be from The terminus, we're at 167, and it proceeds east to 136th Avenue East. And the city has received complaints from adjacent property owners in the area about noise and trash being left from trucks being parked there for an extended period of time. And the 4-hour restriction is effective at keeping trucks from parking there for extended periods of time, 8 hours or more. So staff's recommendation to address this issue is to approve ordinance number 2662.
Okay, could I get a motion and second to consider this item before the council comments on it? Deputy Mayor.
I move we adopt ordinance number 2662, 4-hour parking code amendment.
Okay.
Yes, and I'd like to second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councilmember Hochstetter. Council comments, questions of Mr. Windisch? Sorry, I didn't hear it or see it over there. Councilmember Stewart, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Windisch, I read this ordinance from top to bottom. It's not real long, but I noticed that in section 1, where it spells out some areas in town where there is no parking allowed, and then we get over to the area where you, including 132nd, I mean, there's a number of places. Then item 7 on down, where you're recommending for item 7 it be changed, I think it is from unlimited to 4 hours, and then there's 4 hours on other locations. Can you explain to me why 4 hours? If there's problems with garbage during a certain period of time, you can dump just as much garbage and other stuff in the 4 hours. And can you explain that, please?
4 hours is intended to prevent the overnight, if you will, parking. So I agree with you, you could dump just as much stuff in 4 hours, but if a truck driver is looking for that place where they're required to stop for a certain period of time and they want to stop there, there's a higher likelihood that you're going to end up with trash and garbage. A higher likelihood that they'll park there. If it's a 4-hour limit, there's a likelihood they won't park there at all because they need to park for 8 hours.
Oh, is that a requirement?
Yes. Yeah.
For being a truck driver?
Correct. Yeah,
I
for
see.
commercial trucks, they can only log so many hours, and then they have to stop for an extended period of time, and it's in their log, so if they don't stop, they could be caught in violation.
Okay, so that answers my question. I have a second question, if you don't mind. How would the city enforce this?
It'd be enforced through complaint, or you just call a police officer. Our police chief might be better at answering that question, but if you had an issue, you'd pick up the phone, make a call, and they could come investigate and talk to the truck driver and have them move or cite them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, council members? Okay, Councilmember Hochstetter.
Mr. Windisch, does our enforcement officer that drives around, does he mark tires on that sort of thing and
He
come
has the
back?
ability to mark tires, yes.
And come back by and check and see if that is
Correct.
still there? Does he then talk to the driver at the time, you think?
Often he does, yes. I mean, usually it's a conversation, try to get people to move on, that kind of thing,
All right.
before you cite them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, not having any more questions to the council. Anybody in the audience wish to testify on this matter? Not seeing any. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Stewart.
Yes.
Hurtado.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Hayden.
Yes.
Hochstetter.
Yes.
Okay, the ordinance is passed. We'll move on to Agenda Bill 18-184, which is resolution number 1511, which is the Alley Vacation Sunset Chevrolet. Can I get a motion and second to consider this item? Deputy Mayor.
I state we approve number 1511, Alley Vacation Sunset Chevrolet.
Okay, could you maybe restate it in that manner?
Okay. I move to adopt resolution number 1511, declaring council's intent to consider a petition to vacate a public alley and set a public hearing for December 3rd, 2018.
Thank you very much. Could I second on that?
Yes, I'd like to second that.
Okay, but you wouldn't want to repeat it, would you? No. Okay. Any questions or comments on behalf of the city council? Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Let's see. We were going to move ahead, but go ahead, Scott. What can you tell us about this thing?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Scott Waller. I'm an assistant planner here. And this proposed alley vacation was submitted by Roman 1 LLC, which is Sunset Chevrolet. And this resolution declares the intent to adopt the vacation of this alley. It starts the process. Tonight doesn't actually vacate the alley. It kicks off a public hearing for later on in December. If adopted, this would set a public hearing for December 3rd council meeting, followed by an ordinance that would go before council that would set the price for this alley, which can be up to 50% of the appraised value, and staff is currently looking over that appraisal. The alley in question is approximately 2,543 square feet, and it's located off of West Main Street. The alley abuts 3 properties that are all owned by Sunset Chevrolet, and no other properties gain utility or vehicular access from the alley. And since it's not a through alley, it's not used as a walkable shortcut by other residents, as it doesn't lead anywhere other than Sunset's properties. It essentially acts as a private driveway for Sunset. Sunset has gone through SEPA and a shoreline development permit to expand their parking lot and develop a parking area at 638 West Main Street, where this alley is situated. And in order to develop and have sole use of the alley, the city would need to vacate it. A vacation would allow for Sunset to design and construct an efficient parking layout, as well as incorporate continuous landscaped screening along West Main Street. Staff recommends that council move to adopt Resolution 1511. I'd be happy to answer any questions or offer any clarifications on this.
Okay. Basically, the process that you're talking about is fairly well prescribed under the state RCWs.
Correct.
And what you're doing here is getting council approval to move forward through that process.
Exactly.
Okay. Questions, comments? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. In the agenda bill, it makes reference to the 2 properties between which the alley is, I guess, 638 and 638 and a half, and those are owned by Sunset Chevrolet. Are there houses on those parcels?
There are currently houses. There's plans to demolish those and use that as an expanded parking area for Sunset Chevrolet. Their parking tends to spill over onto the street, and so that area is owned by Sunset with plans to develop.
Okay, so this would not be causing problems for tenants or anything like that if they...
No, those are currently used for Sunset business for parking and various other activities. So there's no one residing there.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other council comments, questions? Scott? Okay. Anybody in the audience that wants to speak to the council on this issue? Okay, seeing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Peterson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes.
Hochstetter?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Potato?
Yes.
And the resolution is passed unanimously. Now, with our amended agenda, we're going to be moving into executive session. Excuse me, for the purpose of discussing with legal counsel real estate acquisition and sale pursuant to RCW 4230-110, paren 1, subparen C, and subparen I, which is pending or threatening litigation and labor negotiations pursuant to RCW 4230-140, subparen 4, for a period not to exceed more than 20 minutes, and there will be action to follow. Counselor, did I get all the correct verbiage in there? Thank you for your help.
First time you were perfect tonight.
Actually, it was. It was, yeah, and it was with the really tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With that, we will move into executive session.
Are we staying here?
No, we're going into the
somewhere.
room.
Okay. You have it somewhere?
Here?
Yep.
Okay.
What did she say?
We have 1 minute.
1 minute, okay.
You sure? Okay, we'll come back into regular session from the executive session. And I would request a motion relative to 18-185 real estate sale. And I'd call on Councilmember Peterson.
I would recommend that we authorize the mayor to execute the second amended and restated purchase and sale agreement and joint escrow instructions with CSHV Sumner Meadows LLC for $40,449,380 and execute any and all related documents necessary to effectuate the sale of the property substantially in a form as approved by the city attorney.
Can I get a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Councilmember Hochstetter. I'd call on City Attorney Andrea Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The agenda item tonight for your consideration is titled the Second Amended and Restated Purchase and Sale Agreement. As many of you will recall, in September of 2013, the city first entered into a purchase and sale agreement to sell approximately 154 acres of land that was formerly operated as the Sumner Meadows Golf Course. Since that time, several issues have arisen that have caused substantial change in the terms of that original agreement. And due to the amount of time that passed since that first September of 2013 agreement, the city and the buyer of that agreement executed a first amended and restated purchase and sale agreement on September 3rd, 2014. With the prior consent of council back in October of 2018, city staff has been in the process of revising and updating the terms of the purchase and sale agreement with the buyer that the city contracted with back in 2013. The most significant terms of this restated and revised purchase and sale agreement are as follows. The total square footage being sold has been reduced from 154 acres to approximately 71 acres. The price per square foot has been increased from approximately $7 a square foot to $13 a square foot. And the contract term is for 2 years with 3 optional 6-month extensions that can be exercised by the buyer. I would be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from the City Council? Councilmember Botetto.
So, if they do the contract term of 2 years, is that when you can expect the money to, you know, or when would that money come to the city if this all goes through as
That is
planned?
correct. The end of the contract term would be what's called the closing date. And on the closing date, money would exchange hands. So if the term is only the 2 years without the optional extensions, that is when the city can expect the money. If the buyer executes their extensions, it could be up to 3.5 years before the closing date.
Oh, okay. At least that clarifies it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, Council? Okay. I don't see any other questions from the council. Anybody from the audience that would like to testify on this particular issue? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Brown?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes.
Hochstetter?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Potato?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
And it's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. That moves us on to reports. Reports by the City Council. Councilmember Reed.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have two, try to be quick ones here. One is Sumner Valley Wolf Pack football and cheer finished up their season and had the joy yesterday of attending the cheer team's end-of-year celebration at Tiffany's. And the girls had a lot of fun. They had a great season. And the organization did really well. Fifth grade took the took the championship, and just wanted to thank them for a great season, great fun for our daughter. And the other one is recently, in efforts to continue connecting with people, I started up my official council member Facebook page. And for anybody that might still be watching, and at this time, it's at Councilmember Patrick Reed for Facebook, and for Twitter, it is at Council for Reed, and the two of those accounts are linked together. So so Facebook will feed the Twitter account, and that's for not official, but my discussions with the public that aren't able to be here or wish to have other ways of contacting or just want to follow and see the different things I post related to the city. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Please vote. Get your ballots in. You still have time if you're watching this tomorrow morning. Thank you.
And that would be please vote and get them in by what, 8 p.m. tomorrow. There's a drop box at Sumner Library.
I have a sign for that in my yard. It says, please vote.
Cool. Okay. Councilmember Hochstetter.
Okay.
Do you have anything else besides the sign in your yard?
Yes, I just, yeah, a little bit. I just want to state my appreciation to the citizens that came out this evening. It's always great to actually hear from citizens on how they feel about our issues. And tonight we had a pretty good turnout, and I hope we continue to have the input like that on our other events or our other issues. So thank you.
Well stated, yeah.
And the citizens that stayed.
And the citizens that stayed, yes. Extra points. Thank you. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Oh. So on Halloween, I had the pleasure of handing out Halloween candy to employees and their children. And for 1 hour, they bring their kids in, and it's really fun to see them interact with their kids, and I really enjoy that. So we do have the best employees around, so thank them for all of their hard work.
Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Stewart.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Potato.
Well, I was just glad that Sharon Mazzoni was here. I had those cat and dog kennel quilts at my house, and there was actually probably closer to 125 that were donated, because there are about 60 of the cat quilts, and then probably 70 or 80 of the dogs. So, our group is pretty generous. Like many of us, ladies love to go shopping, and we have our stash of fabrics.
Extra stuff, huh?
And so, when I went to the meeting last month to pick them up, I was, greatly surprised, but not too surprised either.
Right.
And then, going with everybody else's theme, do get out and vote, because it is so important. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
No comment.
No comment from the city administrator. Wow. Just real quick, I echo Deputy Mayor's comments regarding the city, Halloween deal for employees and their kids. It was a blast. She was far more clever than I was in terms of what really mattered to the kids, and that was what they were getting. And I came with poison apples, consistent with the theme of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and me being the evil queen. But I only had poison apples, and they didn't take one. It was just amazing. Kathy comes out and has these packages of, what was it, Pez dispensers, fanciest Pez dispenser I think I've ever seen, and this other stuff, and is handing them out. So, okay, I got it. Next year, it will be treat side. I'll up my game because yeah, and the winners will be the kids. Okay, with that, we'll call this meeting adjourned.
Hey, one of those apples.